You walk into a game store and you see a massive, beautiful 400-page rulebook. It looks amazing, promising epic adventures, and you just have to have it. You get it home, you crack it open, and that's about it. Weeks are spent trying to figure out the rules, and when you finally get your friends together, their eyes just glaze over during a 3-hour character creation process. The whole thing collapses under its own weight before you even start, and that book just ends up sitting on your shelf looking pretty. I've got a few of those of my own. But what if the key to great role-playing didn't come from a huge book, but from a single sheet of paper? Today, we're talking about Tricube Tales. This is a minimalist RPG system that offers a new perspective on game night. It's all about speed and story. And today, we're going to dive into how this one-page game can actually deliver a more consistent, fun experience than some of those encyclopedias it's up against. When we're talking about mainstream RPGs, we have to start talking about bloat. We've sort of gotten used to the idea that more rules, more supplements, and more options equal a better game. It's understandable that designers want to provide value and cover every possible situation, but the result is often an incredibly dense system that is a huge commitment to learn. This creates a high barrier to entry for new players and can really burn out game masters. The game master is expected to know all of these different subsystems: grappling, crafting, social encounters, you name it. And each one has its own chapter of fiddly rules. A single combat can drag on for hours while players are flipping through their rule books trying to remember what their abilities do. Prepping for a session can feel like studying for an exam. All of that just gets in the way of the most important thing, the story you're telling together. When you spend more time arguing about falling damage rules than describing a desperate leap across a chasm, the system isn't helping anymore. And this is where a game like Tricube Tales comes in. The designer, the well-known Richard Woolcock in the Savage World circles, originally made it to play with his 5-year-old son. He stripped out all the complexity so the player could just roll the dice without doing any math. He found that this simple approach was just as appealing to adults who were tired of all the bloat. That being said, this isn't about rejecting complex games. It's presented as a powerful alternative for those nights when you just don't have the time or the energy for a heavy system. It's built to get you to the fun fast. So how do you fit an entire RPG all on one page, front and back? It boils down to a core mechanic that's very easy to learn, but has a surprising amount of depth. You can forget about stat blocks with a dozen different numbers. In Tricube Tales, you can describe your whole character in one sentence. First, you pick one of 3 traits. Are you agile, brawny, or crafty? Agile is for things like stealth and range attacks. Brawny is for your strength and melee in combat. And crafty is for things like intellect, charisma, and perception. You just pair that with a concept like warrior or detective. Then you add a unique perk and a quirk, and you're basically done. You could have an agile smuggler with lightning quick reflexes who owes money to an alien crime lord. That is your whole character sheet. Seriously, that's it. That's the whole character sheet. That one sentence is the whole character. When you face a challenge, the GM sets a difficulty, usually a 4, 5, or 6. The players are the only ones who roll dice. If you're doing something that fits your trait and concept, like that agile smuggler trying to sneak past a guard, you would roll 3d6. If it's something you're only okay at, you roll 2d6, and if you're bad at it, you roll 1d6. To succeed, you just need one of those dice to hit or beat the target number. That's it. No math. No modifiers. This is where the player-facing levers of perks and quirks comes in, managed by a resource called Karma. Players can spend a point of Karma after a roll to activate their perk and lower the difficulty. Conversely, they can choose to activate their quirk before a roll to make a task harder, but in exchange, they get that point of Karma back. It's a simple, elegant economy that gives players control over their odds of success. A key design feature for GMs is that they never roll dice. Their job is just to present the world and the challenges. This frees them up from managing monster stats and allows them to focus on the story and the pacing. Combat, social encounters, complex tasks, it's all handled with that same core mechanic, so the game keeps moving at a brisk cinematic pace. The theory is interesting, but let's walk through an example to see how a game might play out. Imagine using one of the many one-page micro settings that this game has to offer. Let's say you're running Goblin Gangsters. The whole idea is your goblin mobsters working for the Godfather. Character creation could take maybe 10 minutes. Let's say one player creates a brawny goon named Grits, and another makes a crafty con artist named Filch, who has the quirk Compulsive Liar. Their mission is to shake down a halfling baker. When they get to the bakery, Filch, who is the crafty one, decides to try and intimidate the baker. Since it fits his trait, he rolls 3d6. Let's say he gets 2 successes, which the rules define as a exceptional success. The GM might rule that he doesn't just succeed, he gets a bonus. The baker is so scared, he also reveals that a rival gang of kobolds is trying to move in on their turf. Just then, Grits, the brawny goon, hears a noise in the back. He kicks the door in, a brawny challenge, difficulty 5. He rolls 3d6 and gets 1 success, and the door flies off its hinges. Inside, 2 kobolds are trying to sneak out with a sack of pastries. Combat starts, but instead of initiative, the action just follows the story. Grits charges in swinging a rolling pin, another brawny roll, difficulty 5. He succeeds and describes knocking one of the kobolds into a flour sack. The other kobold throws a knife at Filch. Now Filch will have to make an agile roll to defend himself, with failure costing him resolve, which is sort of like health. But before rolling, he decides to use his quirk, Compulsive Liar. He yells, "Boss! The cops are here!" Using a quirk can make a task harder or introduce a complication to the scene, but it also lets the player regain a point of karma, the resource they can spend later to improve a roll. This entire exchange could take maybe 15 minutes, but it's dynamic and hilarious. The group wouldn't get bogged down in rules. They would just tell a fun, silly story. An entire adventure could be finished in just under 2 hours. That's really the magic of this kind of system. Now, a common criticism of rules-light games is that they don't have enough depth for a long campaign. This is where Tricube Tales has a smart solution, what it calls a complexity dial. The system has over 50 of these micro settings, one-page PDFs or printable pages that give you everything you need for a specific genre. Because the system is released under an open license, other publishers have adapted their own settings to Tricube Tales. If you're a fan of the Savage World system, you might recognize settings like the Sci-Fi World Starbreakers, the Fantasy of Dreckenheim, or the Wild Frontiers of Vermilion. Since they all use the same core engine, once the basics are understood, you can jump between any of these genres instantly. But what if a group does want more crunch? Well, you can just turn up the complexity dial. There's an expansion called Tricube Tactics, and this optional module adds rules for things like initiative, tactical movement on a grid, and combat stunts. Honestly, it's bigger than the original rules. It gives you that crunchier, more tactical experience, but it never changes that core 1 to 3 d6 mechanic. You can start with a simple one-shot, and if everyone's into it, you can slowly add these more advanced rules to build out a full campaign. This scalability is a key design strength. It really meets a group where it's at. At the end of the day, a role-playing game is an engine for creating shared stories. And while those deep, complex systems can be very rewarding, they often demand that the rules become the center of attention. They demand homework. Tricube Tales has a different philosophy. It's built on the idea that the rules should support the story and then get out of the way. It's a toolkit for maximum fun with minimum friction. And its price point? Well, the core rules are free and you can get the entire PDF collection for less than a single hardcover book. That makes it one of the most accessible systems out there today. Now, this isn't about throwing out your 400-page rulebooks. It's about recognizing there's another way to play that respects your time and puts the focus back on creativity. It's perfect for introducing new people to the hobby, or for those nights when you just want to get an adventure in without all the baggage. And that's our look at Tricube Tales. If you are interested in getting this RPG, you can use the links down below to go to DriveThruRPG to purchase either the PDF or physical versions of the game. Using the affiliate link down below gives me a small kickback to support the channel, and it doesn't take any money away from the creators. Let me know what your thoughts are about this game down in the comments below, and let me know what your favorite one-page RPGs are. There are always new ones to check out. And until next time, I guess just keep on rolling.